Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Rolka. Thank you for checking out my video. This is questions from comments 30, where I have corralled a variety of questions and I'm going to answer them here now. A bit of a potpourri of different topics, so really a lot of fun to think about, and I hope that you will enjoy my thoughts on these. Thank you if you've chosen to subscribe. If you haven't yet, I hope that you'll choose to do so now. It really helps the channel. Really appreciate it. Let's dive in. Hey, Mr. Rolka, I love your videos. If you're taking suggestions for new videos, I've been looking into using Primal Sound, crying, whining, calling out, etc. for warm-ups, and I'd love to hear your take on it if you have one. Aside from reading about John Lennon and Yoko Ono's practice of primal scream therapy, I know basically nothing about this and can't really say whether or not it's going to work for you or what you might get from it. There are those who I'm sure have tried this, and if some of you have tried this, please leave a comment in the comments below and let us know what you think about it, what your experience was like, what did you find, how did it help you. My main concern around it would be just overall wear and tear on your voice, and depending on what you're trying to sing, you have to look at the practice of primal scream therapy and decide if that is consistent with the vocal practice that you are trying to do. So if, for example, you are trying to be an opera singer or trying to sing effectively in a choir, doing those kinds of things, the wear and tear on your voice that you would encounter in primal, and I'm reading into this primal scream therapy. You haven't said primal scream therapy, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about here, especially if you're going to do this in a sort of therapeutic environment. The wear and tear can be kind of harsh. You have to take into account what is your goal, why is this going to help you get to that goal, or are there other things that you might do that will also help to get you to that goal that maybe would be a little bit less sort of fatiguing on your voice. So consider that as you think about your investigations of it. And for those of you who have had experience with this, leave us a comment and let us know what your experience was like. Moving on. When I drop my tapes to online teachers, everyone says that I am poorly positioned sound, or presumably I have poorly positioned sound. Do you have any lessons on developing correct sound positioning? And then I don't even know what that is or what it is. I would be very grateful. You're my savior, Jeff. Thank you very much for that. Basically, sound positioning gets talked about a lot in vocal pedagogy. Put it forward, pull it back, put it in the center, think the color purple, think that, like push it forward, pull it back, do all these kinds of different things. There's a couple things to consider very carefully. It's all relative to where you are beginning. So without hearing you and working with you, it's not possible for me to say how you should think about these things. Those indications of position are therefore unique to the individual in question. So as a singing instructor, when you're working with someone, and if they're coming off a lot like this, you might ask them to think about bringing the sound more towards the center of their hard palate or a little bit further back. There are some exercises that are really good at playing with this to find it. One of the ones that I recommend all the time is the NG exercise. So it sounds like this. It's not a pleasant sound necessarily. And all of the sound is coming out of my sinus cavities. My tongue is lifted in the back. It's like saying the word hung and holding on to the NG. Hung. And you can try being very far forward. And try being very far back. Finding the middle. And try to release it and maintain that physical feeling of the way the sound is resonating. The point is that sound position is relative to the individual. It's relative to how they are already using their voice. You ask about exercises on my channel. Basically, all of the warm-ups are vowel alignment practices. In other words, they are exercises to help you find neutral phonation. You have to, however, listen to the way that you sound, and you have to listen to discrepancies in the vowels. So if you sing an exercise on my channel, and it's A and Ah, and you sing A, Ah, well, those vowels are not aligned. Which one's not aligned? It depends on how you sing your other vowels. That's why we use 5 cardinal vowels to get started with, is to be able to fairly easily compare and contrast them. So in this example, ah is clearly not aligned. A, ah. We have to try to make the ah sit in the same position as the A. In this case, my vocal folds are not adducting or closing very well. So if I adduct my vocal folds better, I get a much more consistent sound. My vowels align, and one would say that the positioning is better. So poor vowel position or poor sound position, I talk about that in terms of vowel alignment. The warm-ups on my channel are vowel alignment practices. To move forward, listen carefully to how you are executing the vowels. Notice those that are out of alignment. Notice those that sound reasonably neutral and transition nicely betwixt them. And then use the ones that are aligning well to help the ones that do not. And that would be how to start with that practice. I do hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. My name is, and I took the name out, and I'm 19 in college. I've previously been practicing with your videos, and they are very helpful. Thank you very much for that. I have a few questions to ask, though. When I warm up and sing, do I inhale for air, then let it out slowly? Sometimes I inhale and hold it, but that doesn't work for me trying to hit the high note. I've been practicing 2 songs that have a part where I'll quickly run out of breath trying to hit that high note sitting down, but when I stand up, it makes a huge difference. Sometimes I'll sing long, sometimes I don't. Is it my breath I need to work on more? So there's several questions all baked into this one question. Let's take it from the top to the bottom. When I warm up and sing, do I inhale for air then let out slowly? Yes, that's kind of what it is to sing. We titrate the flow of air over the vocal fold. So we control it relative to where we are in our range. So lower down, we don't need quite as much flowing of air over the vocal fold as we do when we're ascending and we're in the upper register of our voices. Now, truth be told, it's not really the flow of air that changes terribly much. It does change, does increase as we ascend, but it's primarily the engagement below the epiglottis that changes. We need a lot more subglottic air pressure for the vocal folds to stay released when we're in the upper register of our voices. So yes, you're going to inhale and you're going to exhale that air in a metered fashion over time. Sometimes I inhale and hold it, but that doesn't work for me trying to hit the high note. Well, if you're not releasing air, you're not going to have sound emitting from your person. So I'm not exactly sure I understand what you mean by that, because you have to release air in order to have air flowing over the vocal fold and make noise. So if you're just holding the air without releasing it, you're certainly not going to sing any high notes. I've been practicing 2 songs that have a part where I'll quickly run out of breath trying to hit that high note sitting down, but when I stand up, it makes a huge difference. Seems kind of like you've answered your own question. It's fairly evident that you are using your engagement apparatus, your body, your core body muscles, and your expansion differently when you are seated versus when you are standing. When you are standing, it seems apparent that the subglottic air pressure is more appropriate to the range of the note that you are talking about, and so the vocal folds are able to stay adducted or closed more easily than when you are seated. If you need to reconcile those differences, you can practice that passage standing up, trying to notice how your body feels, and then sit down Again, paying very close attention to how your body feels and try to recreate that physical experience. It's the physical experience that will be more easily memorable and easy to recreate. And so, in summary, you say, is it my breath I need to work on more? Maybe, probably. The fact that your effectiveness changes between sitting and standing is not unusual. However, that you're not necessarily aware of all the mechanisms and how they function, that would be an area that might improve your implementation of your support. In other words, if you learn more about how these mechanisms create subglottic air pressure, how the expansion of the rib cage and the rectus abdominis muscles, for example, and internet oblique muscles work in conjunction with the diaphragm to create subglottic air pressure, coming to an understanding of that might help you more effectively use your air column as it currently exists. It may be that you're using it very effectively, but just not consistently because you haven't made the connections to how the apparatus works and how it gets implemented. Equally, the sitting up, standing up thing, it may be that there's a certain amount of musculature that you're aware of or not aware of, and being more aware of that could very much help you use it more effectively, keeping the vocal folds ducted, getting more consistent sound quality throughout the ranges of your voice. I do hope that helps. Yeah, great question. Great question. Always love talking about breath work. All right, here's one of those more esoteric questions. Jeff, please tell me who your favorite YouTuber is. Mine is Daily Dose of Internet. I'm afraid I don't know who that is, Daily Dose of Internet. I watch like kind of random things all over a little bit when I spend some time doing that. But I like Rick Beato. I like finding old concert footage, but a lot of times it's very random channels. Like it's not any specific channel. It could be any old person who, for whatever reason, has this old, like really, usually it's very high quality concert footage from years gone by. But I have a special place in my heart for, and this may come as a surprise to some, commercial aviation. I really like watching commercial airliners take off and land. So I think it's like HD Melbourne or Melbourne HD has some of the most beautiful footage of aircraft landing and taking off. And there is a relatively new channel, I believe it's Aviation Live, that mostly streams, does like an 8-hour long live stream on Sundays. I don't watch all of it. I might pop in for a little bit. And I love his commentary. He has a great sort of joie de vivre about himself on the channel. And the footage is excellent. It's mostly done at LAX, but they do go to different parts and stuff like that too. So that's kind of what I like to watch. And those are the two channels that when I saw your question, I was like, oh yeah, I like those quite a lot. So there you go. Hello, Jeff. Can you please tell me if lip trill exercises develop range and voice in general, or is it just for warm-up and nothing else? I am going to offer a perhaps somewhat contentious opinion here and suggest to you that the lip trill exercise isn't in fact even a very good warm-up. It's actually better at helping develop range than it is, strictly speaking, for warming up. It's a great warm-up if you've been sick. It's a great warm-up if you're tired because it takes a lot of the weight of the air column off of the vocal fold because it is a semi-occluded exercise. So when you do the lip trill, you know, you're going to do it one way or the other. Like you might do it like this. You might do it without your hand. You might do the super lip trill. However you do it, the lips are forming a barrier. The weight of the air column isn't entirely on the vocal fold. This allows them to change shape more easily. And so when you're working on registration event practice, in other words, singing across the secondo passaggio, or what's commonly referred to as the break, it can allow the vocal folds to remain adducted more easily, or closed. Adducted is closed. And you can learn what that feels like, and you can learn to allow for that elongation of the vocal fold and the contraction of it as you go back and forth across the secondo passaggio, back and forth across the break. And it can help you get a feel for what that registration event feels like. The reason why I don't think of it as a particularly good warm-up practice, I mean, it can be like a first warm-up, like a very first thing that you're doing, kind of a thing, just to kind of ease into the day, so to speak. But because it's semi-occluded, because the full weight of the column of air is not on the vocal fold, it's like a step removed from singing. It's not exactly like singing vowel sounds. And so if you use it as part of your warm-up, I think that's fine. Do it earlier in the warm-up and then move on to solid vowel exercises, preferably melismatic. So once you've done your lip trill, then get into the or whatever your vowels of choice are for that day, or better still, whatever the vowels are in the song that you're working on. Move on to that from the lip trill. That will be more like singing the song, and the warm-up will more easily help you move your technique into the song. It'll make your song singing a bit more consistent, a bit more effective. It makes the warm-up more similar to the song. I hope that helps. But yeah, lip trills are great. They're not the end-all be-all of exercises. I think that they're really great for working on range development. I think they're okay as part of a warm-up, but you really want to have other things as part of your warm-up in addition to the lip trill practice. Leaving this for comments 30. Okay, here we go. Do you plan to upload any videos of yourself singing in future? Would love to hear you sing if that's something you'd be interested in doing. Thanks for asking about that. That's a very kind thing to say. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is that this channel is mostly about me helping vocalists understand their voices, use their voices, sing more effectively, more consistently, hopefully get over those passaggi, like especially for tenors and baritones, that secondo passaggio. For the mezzos and the sopranos, oftentimes the primo passaggio is more of an issue. For altos, that middle voice registration event can be an awful lot like a secondo passaggio. Like, that's mostly what I do here on the channel. And when I do upload a video of me with a song that I've been working on or something that I'm singing, I always feel a bit funny about it because it's not really what this channel is about. I did start the Acoustic Lounge channel. I haven't uploaded anything to it in quite some time. I am working on some new material that I will be releasing in the new year. You can certainly find it on Spotify and Apple Music and all those other places. And there's actually some stuff on there from not too long ago that I released. I think I released a couple songs last year, maybe only one or two, I'm not sure. But I think moving forward, if you want to hear or see me performing live, you're going to find those performances on the Acoustic Lounge. And if I remember, I'll put a link in the description. There's not a lot of subscribers on that channel. It's very, very small, but it's appropriate for me to put those kinds of videos, that kind of content, someplace else. This channel is about singing technique. It's about me helping you get the most from your voice in the most sustainable, healthy, and effective way. This was really good, although a bit challenging. I think my range is between baritone and tenor. Do you have recommendations to prevent me straining? And there we have a note left on daily singing warm-up, focus on the break. So of course the break is the secondo passaggio, it's the registration event. If you are straining, it is quite likely that you are not allowing for enough cricothyroid dominance. It is not unreasonable to suspect that this individual may not even be doing the registration event at the appropriate time. So for example here, most tenors and baritones will have their secondo passaggio somewhere in this general vicinity. You know, like the sort of your like baritone area folk are going to be in this area, the tenors kind of move into this area, but that's where that registration event is. I don't recall if that comment was from a tenor. I think it was from a baritone video. At any rate, the point of those exercises is to practice the transition, not to try to belt it where you are staying with the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice. The thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice is the chest voice. We want to allow for a transition to occur. In the beginning, that transition will be extremely noticeable. Before I demonstrate this, I'm gonna have a sip of water. I will edit this out. Right, no one wants to hear me glug, glug, glugging away. The point here is to make a change. Now, in the beginning, and I'll show you here, because it'll be very obvious. You'll hear my voice go through a series of changes. With a vocalist who is new to registration event practice or hasn't had any training, you'll hear a rather disparaging difference between the tone qualities. Generally, the vocal fold will also separate, so you'll get this falsetto-like tone production. And they may or may not be able to readduct the vocal fold when they're descending. Once you've had a bit of practice, you can keep the vocal fold adducted. However, you will find that the voice will still sound very cricothyroid dominant. This is good for a beginning. It's very hollow, very dopey. It's obviously very head voicey. And as one improves, the registration event is still going to be there, but it will become less and less noticeable to the outside listener. I'm still doing that registration event. My voice is still going from chest voice to head voice and back. It's just that with practice, we learn how to match the tone quality across the secondo passaggio. So if you're straining, I suspect whether or not you're making that transition at all. And if you aren't, even if you don't want to do it all the time, I would advise you to check into, I have a 3-part series here on the YouTube channel, which is, I think it's called How to Sing High Notes. I'll put a link in the description. And also, you might consider my high note boot camp, which as of January 1st, in the past I have only allowed enrollment once per year. As of January 1st this year, enrollment is going to be open year-round. I'll mention it more as we get closer to that point, but that is a step-by-step video process that I made to help vocalists learn about the break or the secondo passaggio, and it goes step by step through each of the exercises that I use to help vocalists learn to start making that transition, make it more consistent, eventually move that to all the the 5 cardinal vowels, and then develop consistency as you move your way back and forth across the secondo passaggio, paving the way for using that range effectively in your songs. But more on that as we get closer to January 1st. A couple more questions here. I do hope that helps. Thanks, Jeff. Love this one. Strange question for you, but do you have any go-to advice on converting a song in another register to a baritone range? I'm finding my vocals are most comfortable in G minor and a semitone below that. G minor as in 2 notes below the A string on a guitar, so 2 semitones below the A string. And it seems as if this person is saying that they're most comfortable in G minor and F sharp minor, I suppose. I'm not sure about the major tonalities. I presume that they're part of this process as well. I don't know. Basically, what we're talking about here is transposition. It pays to know the melody. So if you know the highest and lowest notes of the melody and how they map onto your range, or how they exceed your range either on the top end or the low end, then you can look at those notes, and find a key where it works for you. So let's have a concrete example here for a moment. Let's just say that you're in the key of C, and the highest note in the melody is a G, and your highest note is an E. Well, obviously, that is a minor third higher than your highest note. So we need to change the key. Where we know that we're in the key of C, G, the note G, is the 5th scale degree of C. So here's the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5th note of C major. If we find a key, and let's just say for the sake of argument that we're going to make E the note. So your highest note, E, is the note we're going to go for. We need to know which key that is the 5th of. So, I happen to know this, of course. A major has E as its 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you move that song from the key of C to the key of A, you should be good to go. I actually made some charts some years ago, and I mentioned them in a video from years ago, and I'll mention them here too. People still ask for them all the time. I still send them out. You're welcome to have them. You just need to send an email to me through my website asking me for them. Just send an email saying, hey, you mentioned these transposition charts. Can I get a set? And I'll be like, yeah, they're attached. Have fun. That's basically it. But I mean, you have to have a certain understanding of the notes of the melody and the notes of, or the key that you happen to be in. That will help a lot in terms of making it so that you can change keys effectively and get the songs into the right area for your voice. This is a great little warm-up. There will be proper practices and exercises later in the day, but I wonder whether it is a good idea to go straight into singing after this warm-up, and what would be a good follow-up practice to do before working on learning a new piece. As luck would have it, I am working in D at the moment, so there's a key-specific practice I can use. Best regards and thank you. And this was left on it's a relatively new 10-minute vocal warm-up, do this before you sing video. It was released just a week or two ago as of the creation of this video that we're doing right now. I think that's a very astute comment. That warm-up, I mean, it's 10 minutes. Generally speaking, most of us need about 20 minutes to warm up, unless you sing so much every single day that warming up is almost optional. Though I would argue it's still a good practice to make sure that you're maintaining good vowel alignment. This person, this individual, in my opinion, pretty much hit the nail on the head. They mentioned going to a warm-up in D because they're singing a song in D, and that's what I would advise you to do. Have a look at the repertoire that you're singing. The warm-up, this 10-minute vocal warm-up, it was meant to be a versatile general warm-up. In other words, whatever you're going to sing afterwards, this is a decent way to get your day going and move on into other practices that are perhaps more specific to your repertoire. So look at what your repertoire requires of you, ascertain the skills that you need to acquire or need to reinforce or warm up, and then use warm-ups that reinforce those skills. This person says, I have a song in D, I'm going to use a warm-up in D. That is a great idea. That's exactly right. So thank you so much, all of you, for all of your questions. I really hope this helps. If you have any follow-ups, please leave them in the comments below. I hope that you will consider subscribing. It really helps the channel, and I really appreciate it. And finally, I'll wish you a lovely, lovely day. Take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.